Hey everyone, French Tutor here. Today let's talk everything about Aemeath, a 5-star fusion sword main DPS who deals a destructive amount of damage, switches in between a mech form and herself, and utilizes Tune Rupture and Fusion Burst mechanics. Let's go over her kit, how to optimize her, some advanced tech, useful animation cancels, her rotations, her builds, teams, sequence nodes, and much more. Feel free to use the timestamps as there are a lot of information. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on anything. And disclaimer, this guide was recorded from the media server. Things may be subject to change in the final release version. Check the pinned comments down below if there are any changes. Thank you, and let's get right into it. First, her basic kit. She has a 4-hit basic attack sequence. First, she does a horizontal slash, multiple slashes, then she lunges forward, and lastly, a digital sword comes downward. Hold normal attack for a short time to do heavy attack 1, and this follows up into basic attack 2. Hold normal attack longer to do heavy attack 2, and this follows up into basic attack 3. This does higher damage and it's important for your rotations later, and you can charge it much faster too later. Both of these are considered liberation damage. Dodge counter is essentially basic attack 3, intro skips into basic attack 3, Tomb Break follows up into basic attack 3, switching in does basic attack 2, and this is her unique mid-air attack, which follows up into basic attack 2. Her resonance skill switches between her mech form and herself freely at any time. Switching into mech automatically does enhanced basic attack 1, and switching into herself she automatically does basic attack 1. Switching forms from mech to Aemeath in mid-air makes her do mid-air attack. Her mech form has a 4-hit enhanced basic attack sequence. First she twirls her weapon, does a horizontal spin, shoots multiple lasers, and then a horizontal sweep. Hold normal attack for a short time to do enhanced heavy attack 1. This follows up into enhanced basic attack 2. Hold normal attack longer to do enhanced heavy attack 2. And this follows up into enhanced basic attack 3. Same as her normal heavy attacks. Enhanced heavy attack 2 does more damage and also important for your rotations. Both also considered liberation damage. Enhanced dodge counter is essentially enhanced basic attack 3. Enhanced intro skips into enhanced basic attack 3. Tomb Break follows up into enhanced basic attack 3. Switching in does enhanced basic attack 2. This is her enhanced mid-air attack, and it follows up into enhanced basic attack 2. All her mech form normal attacks can be done close to the ground. Now to actually attack with her resonance skill, you need to use it during her basic attacks like a combo. After doing basic attack 2, 3, or 4 as Aemeath, press resonance skill to switch into mech form and use her resonance skill chain attack called Sync Strike, and this follows up into enhanced basic attack 2. After doing enhanced basic attack 2, 3, or 4 in mech form, press resonance skill to switch into Aemeath and use another resonance skill chain attack, and this follows up into basic attack 2. Press resonance skill after dodge counter to do this skill as well. Now let's talk about her Forte Circuit. Her first Forte is called Synchronization Rate, and you can see it from this gauge right here, which holds up to 200 points, so each left and right side is going to be 100 points each. To gain this, you have to hit with every attack we just talked about, so all of Aemeath's and her mech's normal attacks, except all heavy attacks, your resonance skill chain attacks, your intro and enhanced intro recovers 40 points, and your resonance liberation recovers 30 points. Now, when you use basic attack 4 or enhanced basic attack 4, you enter the Seraphic Duo state for 5 seconds. Now in this state, if you have at least 100 points of Forte, you can use your Forte resonance skills. As Aemeath, press resonance skill to switch into mech form and cast Seraphic Duet, and this follows up into enhanced basic attack 2. In mech form, press resonance skill to switch into Aemeath and attack, and this follows up into basic attack 2. And these attacks are considered liberation damage, and they can be cast in mid-air. And note that these attacks will deplete your synchronization rate. Now when you use your Forte resonance skills, you gain a second Forte called Resonance Rate. You can hold up to 4 points, and there are these 4 sparkles you see on your gauge right here. Your Forte resonance skills recover 1 point. Your normal liberation restores 1 point. But if you use your liberation after using your intro, you can get 2 points, because your intro puts you in a state called Starloom Acceleration that helps you gain 1 more point, and this state lasts for 15 seconds. So basically for your rotation, you get 2 points of this Forte from your intro and your liberation, and then you need to do at least 2 Forte resonance skills. Finally, her resonance liberation. First, it puts you in mech form and deals a good amount of damage. Press normal attack to follow up into enhanced basic attack 2, or press resonance skill to switch into Aemeath and use basic attack 2. This can be cast in midair close to the ground. Once you cast your Liberation, you enter the Heavenfall Edict Unbound state for 60 seconds. So basically, this state lets you use your Liberation finisher under 2 conditions. If you have 4 points of Resonance rate, your second Forte, and if you have full 200 points of Synchronization rate. But now how do we get full 200 points of your first Forte Synchronization rate? So once you're in the Heavenfall Edict Unbound state, and you have full 4 points of your second Forte, you enter the Instant Response state. And in this state, casting Heavy Attack 2 or Enhanced Heavy Attack 2 charges up very quickly and you restore 200 points of Synchronization rate. And this will finally unlock your Liberation finisher, Heavenfall Edict Finale. Press your Liberation or Resonance skill to cast this attack, and it does a massive amount of damage and ends your rotation. And this can be cast in midair close to the ground. Now let's talk about our best rotation. There's gonna be a lot of different variations, but trust me, this is the best one after hours of testing. Start with her intro into basic attack 3 to 4, and then let's use her resonance skill chain attack. And now's a good time to use Tomb Break here so you don't interrupt your combo chains into your Liberation. Now it's gonna be very easy from here. We're going to skip into enhanced basic attack 2, 3, and then 4, and then use your Forte resonance skill. Repeat the same idea, skip into basic attack 2, 3, 4, and then Forte resonance skill again. With full resonance rate, now use your enhanced heavy attack, echo into Liberation finisher. And if you do it fast enough, it's about a 14-second rotation. Checkpoint, that's the most important parts of her kit to use her. So now let's take a little break and learn how to build her, and then let's continue the more difficult parts of her kit later. And if you're liking the video so far, make sure to like and subscribe. For Forte priority, first level your Liberation, then your Forte Circuit, then your Resonance skill and normal attack equally, and then finally your intro skill. I would level Liberation and Forte Circuit to 10. For Resonance skill and normal attack, I would keep level 8 to 10, and intro level 6 to 8. Now for her Echo build, you want to use a new Sonata set Trailblazing Star. 2-piece gives 10% fusion damage, and with the 5-piece, if you inflict Fusion Burst or Tune Rupture Shifting, it increases your crit rate by 20%, and grants 20% fusion damage bonus. If you can't farm that set yet, you can use Flaming Claw Print. It gives fusion damage bonus and Liberation damage bonus. And if you're just starting out, you can just use Molten Rift set. Cost 4 Echo, you want to use Sigillum. It's tailor-made for her because when she equips it, it grants 25% Resonance Liberation damage bonus. For main stats, for cost 4, you want crit rate or crit damage. Cost 3, you want fusion damage bonus. And cost 1, you want attack percent. For substats, focus on getting crit rate, crit damage, and then get a good amount of energy regen, then focus on attack percent, liberation damage bonus, and flat attack. For her weapons, Everbright Polestar gives crit rate, increases all attribute damage bonus by 12%, and when you inflict Tune Rupture Shifting or Fusion Burst, Resonance Liberation damage will ignore defense and fusion resistance, the perfect weapon for her. And honestly, you can just use Emerald of Genesis and get it ranked up if you can. Technically, Red Spring could do a little bit more damage, but you really don't need it. Same with Blazing Brilliance, does a tiny more than Emerald of Genesis, and if you don't have anything else, you can use Emerald Sentence. If you don't have Emerald Genesis, you can use Feather Edge, but honestly, you don't really need it. You can also go with Endless Collapse, but on a Fusion Burst team, I would go with Fables of Wisdom, then I go with Commando of Conviction or Lunar Cutter. Now let's talk about her Resonance modes. Each mode will change what kind of debuff you apply on enemies, either Tune Rupture Shifting or Fusion Burst, and change the way how your Forte Resonance skill Seraphic Duet works. And according to Aemeath's official combat guide, the direction they're trying to take is they want Tune Rupture to focus on single target enemy damage output, and Fusion Burst would focus on AoE damage potential, like against enemies on Whimpering Wastes. And to apply Tune Rupture Shifting or Fusion Burst on your enemies, you can use all of your basic attack 3s and 4s, all your resonance skill chain attack Sync Strike, and all your intro skills. Note the same skill can apply on enemies once every 3 seconds. In Tune Rupture mode, your Forte Resonance skill deals additional 5 instances of Tune Rupture damage, each time on a random target within range. So you can see right here, these are the 5 instances of Tune Rupture damage, but we can buff these instances of damage with a few other mechanics. When resonators in the team respond to Tune Rupture interfered, you inflict 10 stacks of something called Rupturous Trail on the enemy for 30 seconds, up to 30 stacks. Each stack of Rupturous Trail increases the damage multiplier of those instances of Tune Rupture damage by 4%, up to 30 stacks, so that's up to 120% more damage. These stacks are then removed. And remember, only Aemeath, Lynae, and Mornye can respond to Tune Rupture interfered. So first, I'm going to apply Toon Rupture shifting on an enemy, and then I'm going to Toon Break them to respond to Toon Rupture interfered. And then you can see the 30 stacks of Rupture's trail up here, which will help me buff my Toon Rupture damage later. But you also get more buffs from something called Stardust Resonance, a state you enter after using your Liberation for 30 seconds. Stardust Resonance does two things. Instead of dealing 5 instances of Toon Rupture damage, you will now deal 10 instances. Also, it makes the first Forte Resonance skill not remove Rupture's trail stacks. So you can do a second Forte Resonance skill with the same amount of stacks, which is a lot of damage. So after using my Liberation, I enter Stardust Resonance, I use my Forte Resonance skill here, and now you can see all these instances of damage, which is now 10. And yeah, it's just a massive amount of damage. Now let's talk about her Fusion Burst mode. So first, what is Fusion Burst? It's a negative status that can deal AoE fusion damage once it reaches max stacks, which is normally 10 stacks. But in Aemeath's special Fusion Burst mode, this is reduced to 5 stacks. So first, you should learn how Fusion Burst works naturally in Aemeath's Fusion Burst mode. When an enemy has 5 stacks of Fusion Burst and gains 1 more stack, all stacks will be removed to trigger an AoE explosion. But funny enough, the damage itself doesn't care how much fusion stacks you have, it's based on your max limit of it. And this is where Chisa comes in play, since she can increase the max stack limit by 3, and I'll explain more later. Also, when enemies have 0 stacks of Fusion Burst, you can inflict 1 stack just by going near an enemy, with any active Resonator. And lastly, when Resonators in the team inflict Fusion Burst, they also inflict 1 stack of something called Fusion Trail for 30 seconds, stacking up to 30 times. It's very similar to Rupture's Trail. Basically, you'll buff your Fusion Burst damage when you use your Forte Resonance skill Seraphic Duet. So first in Fusion Burst mode, if I walk up to any enemy with any active Resonator, I inflict 1 stack of Fusion Burst and 1 stack of Fusion Trail. And now you can see this enemy with 5 stacks of Fusion Burst. I'm going to inflict 1 more stack, and then you can see this AoE explosion and the damage. So now how does Fusion Burst affect her Forte Resonance skill? So this is a little bit different from how Fusion Burst naturally works, because when your Forte Resonance skill hits an enemy, it's going to trigger Fusion Burst. But it actually doesn't get rid of any of your Fusion Burst stacks. But the same as before, the damage is based on your max limit of Fusion Burst. And again, that's where Chisa comes in. So extra Fusion Burst damage without using your Fusion Burst stacks. But funny enough, it removes stacks of Fusion Trail. Each stack removed increases the damage multiplier of that Fusion Burst damage by 10%. But remember, your Liberation has that Stardust Resonance state, so the damage multiplier of your Fusion Burst triggered by your Forte Resonance skill additionally increases by 200%. And this stacks with the damage multiplier with Fusion Trail. And also the next Forte Resonance skill you cast won't remove the stacks of Fusion Trail. That means your second Forte Resonance skill can also enjoy the damage buffs. So first I'm going to use my Liberation and then use my Forte Resonance skill, and I'm going to do all this extra damage with my Fusion Burst thanks to my Fusion Trail stacks. And again, it doesn't remove my Fusion Burst stacks, and thanks to Stardust Resonance I don't remove my Fusion Trail stacks here either, and that's how everything works. So now how does Chisa affect Fusion Burst mode? We know that she can increase the max stack limit by 3 for negative statuses in general. So we don't actually get to see that extra 3 stacks. So you're not gonna see like 5 stacks of Fusion Burst turning into 8 or anything like that. So remember, the actual Fusion Burst damage is the max limit of stacks you can actually have. So theoretically, you have 10 stacks of Fusion Burst, which just the requirement of 5 stacks is needed in Aemeath's Fusion Burst mode. And then Chisa will increase this to theoretically 13 stacks. So the Fusion Burst damage you're going to get is as if you had 13 Fusion Burst stacks. And to just keep it way more simple, that extra 3 stacks kind of just doubles the amount of Fusion Burst damage you can do. And of course she has her defense reduction mechanics, up to 30%, which will also increase Fusion Burst damage. Lastly, more extra parts to her kit. For her second inherent skill, in Toon Rupture mode, when your team inflicts Toon Rupture shifting or deals Toon Rupture damage, Aemeath's crit damage increases by 20% up to 3 times. So as of now with Aemeath, Mornye, and Lynae, you can get up to 60% crit damage. And with 3 stacks, your Liberation finisher damage is amplified by 25%. In Fusion Burst mode, you only need 2 Resonators, and you can get up to 60% crit damage still. And with 2 stacks, you increase your Liberation finisher damage again. So we actually don't have another Fusion Burst Resonator to help us get the full buffs. so we have to wait for a future character. Her outro is also resonance mode dependent. Basically, her teammates will gain a 10% all damage amplification for 20 seconds, but in Tomb Rupture mode, resonators who can inflict Tomb Rupture gains up to 20% now. And in Fusion Burst mode, resonators who can inflict Fusion Burst will get up to 20% too. And for exploration mechanics, while she's in mech mode, she has another forte called Star Flux. And think of this as the fuel to her mech, and it's this bar right here. This allows you to fly and hover, and this recovers naturally over time. Hold jump to ascend, press left control to descend, and press your utility tool to fly. Now for teams, the current best team for Aemeath is with Lynae and Mornye. Aemeath can get that full 60% crit damage buff, and the Liberation Finisher buff. Lynae can boost Liberation damage, and Mornye can provide that extra 40% bonus damage as well. And this team is extremely strong. I know a lot of people are going to ask about Lynae and Chisa, and which mode to use. General rule of thumb, if you're using Chisa, use the Fusion Burst mode, because when resonators can inflict negative statuses, they ignore 18% defense thanks to Chisa's Thread of Bane. And this makes for a pretty decent team, because do not underestimate Fusion Burst damage. If you don't have Lynae, I recommend using Lupa. She can provide a lot of fusion damage and fusion resistance, especially with this temporary mono fusion team. If you don't have either, try this Fusion Burst team with Chisa, and I would put Shorekeeper here instead of Mornye. So as mentioned earlier, Fusion Burst is not complete yet. You're going to do a lot less damage than the Tomb Rupture teams, but it's still worth playing in my opinion. Then I would go with a Lupa and Chisa Fusion Burst team. It did pretty okay in my testing, but again, Lupa with Mornye or Shorekeeper is better in my opinion. Now you can use Changli, but keep in mind her outro skill only lasts for 10 seconds, but Aemeath's rotations are on average like 14 to 15 seconds. So you really have to go out of your way to make that kind of rotation. So this is playable, but it's much harder. And your free to play option would be like Jianxian and Verena. For an advanced rotation, switch it to Lynae's resonance skill, and then Mornye just sets up here, and then use your enhanced basic attacks here into resonance skill, into Forte heavy attack. And then let's use her Liberation, and then use her Echo. And then we're gonna just switch to Lynae, and then, you know, just bread and butter stuff. We're gonna use Intro into Liberation here, and then let's do her heavy attack, and then let's do jump attack 1, 2, 3, Forte Finisher, Echo, Intro, basic attack 3 to 4, and then resonance skill chain attack, and let's do a Tomb Break here. And then let's use her Liberation. Now we do have enough Forte for a Forte Resonance skill, but just do what I taught you before. Enhance Basic Attack 2, 3, 4 into Forte Resonance skill again. And then repeat Basic Attack 2, 3, 4, and then Forte Resonance skill again here. And then let's charge our Enhance Heavy Attack 2 to Echo, and then Liberation Finisher. And check out the advanced tips for the animation cancels on screen. Now for her sequence nodes. Now in instant response, her heavy attacks continuously pull in enemies while charging, and gains a 300% crit damage increase. She also gets a new enhanced state instant response brilliance, so if she meets these conditions over 4 seconds, she gains all the buffs from instant response, and it's even active after the Heavenfall Edict Unbound 60-second state. So to keep it simple, if you don't use your Liberation and meet those conditions, her heavy attack is going to grant 100 points of Forte, and that's kind of ridiculous for her rotations. She also gets some enhanced Rupture's Trails and Fusion Trails. So when she defeats a target affected by Rupture's Trail and Fusion Trail, she enters something called Sealed Trail for 10 seconds. So when she defeats a target affected by Sealed Trail, it records the highest stack count of Rupture's Trail or Fusion Trail. So her next skill that hits the enemy inflicts the targets with the recorded stacks of Rupture's Trail or Fusion Trail to the current max limit, which is 30. S2 increases the damage multiplier of your Forte Resonance skills by 100%. The Tomb Rupture damage you do from your Forte Resonance skills is increased by 20% for 1 second, stacking up to 5 times. For Fusion Burst mode, in the Stardust Resonance state, instead of a 200% damage multiplier, that increases to 400%, and the Fusion Trail damage multiplier will increase from 10% to 15%. Also, when you defeat an enemy near the active resonator, it immediately triggers the Fusion Burst damage based on the current stack of Fusion Burst that's on that target. So an extra instance of AoE Fusion Burst damage. S3 increases the damage multiplier of your Liberations. Now in an instant response, you can inflict either Tomb Rupture Shifting or Fusion Burst, even when you use her heavy attacks. S4 is a support sequence node. Your intro skills, your resonance skill chain attacks, and your Forte Resonance skill, your entire team will gain a 20% all attribute damage bonus for 30 seconds. For S5, when she defeats a target, her Star Flux is reset to 100, and that's the fuel for your mech when you're flying and hovering. And then she also kind of becomes invincible. If she faints, she turns into a 2D digital ghost for 5 seconds, and it's going to grant the team a shield equal to 360% of her attack, so this might be 5 seconds, but let's see. And when she exits from this 2D state, she recovers to full health and 30 points of resonance energy, and this has a 10-minute cooldown. And when she revives, the shield is removed. For S6, targets take 40% more resonance liberation damage, and in Tomb Rupture mode, her Tomb Rupture damage can critically hit now, and so can your Fusion Burst. And now the stacks of Rupture's Trail and Fusion Trail will double from 30 to 60. Also, when Aemeath is out of combat, the max stack limit of Rupture's Trail or Fusion Trail is increased to 60 on targets near the active resonator. And then when she casts her Forte Resonance skill, she's going to inflict 10 stacks on the targets within that range, lasting for 30 seconds. Alright, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to follow me on Twitch and join our Discord for a small and positive community. If you need any more character guides or beginner guides, they're on screen. And other than that, thank you again so much for watching. Take care now.